Hello, I'm Oscar Carmona, owner of Healing Grounds Nursery. I also teach the Green Gardener program with Adult Ed. And we're here to talk today about IPM, which means Integrated Pest Management. And it's a holistic approach to dealing with pest and disease problems. We're here today at Alicekeck Park to see plants that are wonderfully growing in their natural state. Meaning very little pruning and with lots of flowers, which is a key element of IPM. So let's take a little tour around and see some of the plants that are blooming, and we'll talk a little bit about why that's important. So Integrated Pest Management, or IPM, has 5 fields of control. Number 1, education. Number 2, cultural, which is our management issues. Third is our physical controls, exclusions or traps, things like that. The 4th field is biological controls using beneficial insects. And the 5th field of control are pesticides, be they organic or chemical. Here at Alicekeck Park, we're going to touch on a couple of these topics and illustrate why they are important. The first field for IPM, or Integrated Pest Management, is education. It's important to note that the premise of IPM is that a healthy plant will be less susceptible to disease and pest problems. And in order to know whether a plant is getting what it needs, there are really wonderful resources that we have at our disposal to enlighten us if we're not familiar with different plants, to be able to provide them what they need to grow well. One is the WaterWise SB website, which is a wonderful resource not only for plant materials and learning about what they require to grow well, but also information about irrigation and classes. So it's a great resource. The other is the Sunset Western Garden book, which has a lot of key information about plants that are pertinent to where we live here in Southern California. And the third are these little things called pot tags, which come with the plants. And if you're able to maintain or save those, you can find out or remember a lot of information about the plants that you have to know if they're getting what they need to grow well. The second field of action is cultural controls, and that basically has to do with management. Now we take the information from the first field of action and we apply it to the cultural controls. Meaning that if our soil is lacking of organic matter, then we want to add compost and mulch. Or if our watering is off, if we're watering too much or we're watering not enough, then we need to make that adjustment. If the plants are getting too much sun where they really need more shade, we need to consider maybe moving that plant so that it can get what it needs. So these are actions that a gardener or a homeowner can take to make the plant healthier, putting it in an environment and giving it the things that it needs to grow well. Again, the premise is that a healthy plant is more disease resistant, and these are long-term solutions. It doesn't necessarily deal with the short-term problem, but in the long term, these will effectively do away with the disease and pest problems that we may be seeing either on a regular basis or infrequently. So let's go over to Island Seed and Feed and to visit my good friends there and talk about the other fields of action. So here we are at Island Seed and Feed. It's a great place to come for anything and all things organic and sustainable in the way of landscaping. And we're gonna go in and talk to Matt Buckmaster and find out a little bit more about physical controls and barriers, beneficial insects, and then pesticides, organic pesticides. So let's go on in and find out. Matt, what can people expect to find here at Island Seed and Feed?
Well, Island Seed and Feed has long specialized in natural garden and farm deterrents to pests and such in the garden, out of not wanting to use non-organic pesticides and such. So we only carry organic, all natural pesticides, which of course still kill bugs and of course are still pesticides. They still need to be used wisely. We have a lot of products that exclude bugs. We also have beneficials that would eat the bugs in your garden. If you say released a bag of ladybugs in your garden in the evening. And if they hang out just a few days liking your garden, they're going to lay eggs, and you'll have ladybug larvae all summer long, eating mostly aphids, a few other bugs too, eggs of other creatures that you don't want in your garden. We have sprays, we have barrier products like copper tape, which people put around the top of raised bed gardens, and snails and slugs supposedly will never cross it. It does work to a degree, so that's one more thing you can do. In the realm of gophers, which a lot of people are dealing with right now because gophers are having babies, and so people are watching their gardens disappear, just like in cartoons. And in the past, people have used traps. There's all kinds of traps. We have them. I don't need to show a grizzly trap here. They're easy to set and they work. But there's also a little less violent method of dealing with your gophers, and that would be a gopher barrier. And in the past, there have been these gopher baskets that are made out of metal that, of course, break down into not so good things in your dirt, and they aren't organic certified. And recently, in the last few years, products come along. This is a gopher basket that's made out of stainless steel, and it's actually approved for use in organic gardening. You don't have to worry about things getting picked up by your plants that are in this gopher cage, and it keeps the gophers out from getting to the roots of your plant.
Let's talk a little bit about the kinds of pesticides the organic pesticides that you have.
Well, I took 3 different products off the shelves. We have some others. I don't have particular brand loyalty to anybody in particular, so I often get a lot of different products that customers come in and rave about. We try them, decide they work or don't work. Most of them work famously. This one here is Organicide, which its main ingredient is sesame oil. It has fish oil in there as well. It works as a fungicide, so it fights fungus that are, say, attacking roses. It'll kill a lot of soft-bodied insects, whiteflies, aphids, fungus gnats, that kind of thing. So there's that. This is a mite and insect control. A lot of the same creatures are targeted with these. This one's rosemary and clove oil. And I have another one here that's peppermint oil. And we have still others that are based on soap. There's some that are made from horticultural oil, which is like a paraffin, which people can spray on fruit trees to fight everything from the glassy-winged sharpshooter to any one of a number of things that'll be suffocated by oil being on their bodies.
Thanks a lot, Matt.
Hey, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in.
So Island Seed and Feed is a wonderful place where you can get all sorts of sustainable landscaping supplies. And as we talked about in IPM, the 5 fields of action, the 3rd field would be barriers and exclusions. So that would be these products here. The 4th field is beneficial insects. As I said earlier, when plants flower, they will naturally attract, but sometimes you need a little bit of reinforcements. So you can order them, mail order, in this case, ladybugs, but other insects too that do wonderful work in your garden. And then lastly is the pesticide family, and organic pesticides are pesticides, just the same. They're classified as such. And the point of all of this is that you see, hopefully, that the use of chemical pesticides is really the last step. And there's so many things you can do before you even get to that point. So try to remember every little detail of IPM. Just know that it's a progression from the most benign act to ultimately, if you need to get there, in many cases you won't, if you follow these steps, the toxic pesticides, in which case you're going to need to be really careful how you use those and make sure you follow directions. Anyway, Oscar Carmona, wishing you happy gardening, and we'll see you next time.